Hi everyone, welcome to Best Recipes with Sharon. Today we will be making a complete meal. It's called curried rice with seasoned fried chicken and plantains. And it's served with roasted cashews, fresh cilantro, and peanut sauce on the side. Sound good? Well, it is, so stay with me and we'll go ahead and make this. So let's start by making the curried rice. Place 3 cups of water in a medium-sized saucepan. Turn your heat on high and get your water boiling. Measure out 2 cups of uncooked rice. And once the water has started to boil, then go ahead and add the rice. And once the rice has started to simmer a little bit, I add about half a cup of frozen peas and carrots and let that cook with the rice. Then just cook that for a few more minutes according to the package directions on the rice, and let the vegetables get tender along with the rice. Add about a teaspoon of salt and about a half a teaspoon of black pepper. At this point, I add about a half a cup of chicken broth. Then you go ahead and add the spices along with it. And here I'm adding about 3 teaspoons of curry powder, and 1 teaspoon of cumin, and about half a teaspoon of chili powder, and also half a teaspoon of paprika. Take a large spoon and mix this all together until it's well incorporated, so that the chicken broth and the spices are all mixed in really well. This is what gives this dish all its flavor. So you want to make sure that it's evenly distributed. And just to add a little bit of color and a little bit more flavor, I chop up some fresh cilantro and add a teaspoon or 2 of this. And then give that a quick stir. Now chop some fresh salted cashews and put them in a buttered pan. Fry them a little bit till they're just lightly roasted. Now take the cashews and more fresh cilantro and set it aside for garnishing later. Okay, on to the seasoned chicken. This is the same recipe that's in my recipe book, except that I'm doing it on top of the stove and going to be frying it instead of baking it. And it's also made from chicken that is actually cooked already. So in the recipe that's in the recipe book, it's from raw chicken. This is showing you that you can do it with cooked chicken as well. Here I'm chopping up some cooked chicken breasts. You can use the white meat or the dark meat, whatever it is that's your preference. Chop your cooked meat into about 1-inch chunks. Take a small bowl and add 3 tablespoons of brown sugar. Add 2 teaspoons of paprika and 2 teaspoons of oregano, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, then 1 teaspoon of salt, also 1 teaspoon of black pepper. And it's important to make sure that the spices are mixed together really well, so that when they go on the meat, they will coat it evenly and the flavors will be distributed properly. So now I take some olive oil and I sprinkle it generously over the meat. Now I have about 4 cups of chopped chicken breast here. And I'm just stirring the chicken up a little bit to get the olive oil distributed onto each piece if I can. Now add this tasty spice concoction to your chicken and mix it in well. So back to the stove now, we'll go ahead and we'll add some extra virgin olive oil to a frying pan. Make sure that you coat the bottom really well. And you may have to add a little bit more of the olive oil as it's frying if you need to. heat that oil up, and once it's nice and hot, you can go ahead and add your chicken. And let the chicken start to fry a little bit before you start turning it over. And you'll just continue to fry that until it starts to brown a little bit. And you'll likely have to move it back and forth or stir it a little bit, turn it over so that the spices don't stick to the bottom of the pan. Now the chicken's looking pretty good, so we'll give it a final stir, and then we'll set it aside until we're ready to use it. So we'll put a lid on it and keep it warm. Now we'll just heat up some peanut sauce for dipping, and that needs to be put into a small frying pan and slowly heated. Now I'm just pouring it from a jar today, but I do have a homemade recipe for this, and it's really good, and it's in my cookbook. Now last of all, I'm going to concentrate on frying up some plantains. Plantains are a type of cooking banana. When you plan to cook with these, the riper they are, the better. At least that's in my opinion, because they're sweeter and they're easier to work with. They're very hard when they're green, so try to get them when they're actually turning black. This was the ripest one I could find in the supermarket, but it's peeling okay. I learned all about plantains from my son when he lived down in the Caribbean. And like I said, the riper they are, the better for this dish. Ideally, they should be blacker on the outside than what these ones were today, if you want to maximize their sweetness. Today we're going to keep it pretty simple. We're just going to go ahead and fry these up in a little bit of olive oil. You can use canola oil or vegetable oil if that's what you have, but get it nice and hot and then put the plantains in on the oil, and you just go ahead and fry them until they're golden brown. Turn them back and forth as you need to. These won't take that awful long to fry. They seem pretty stiff when you put them in sometimes, but they'll soften up fairly quickly. And just put a little sprinkle of salt on the top and keep turning them over until they're nice and evenly browned. And you might want to just note that the temperature of the oil matters. Don't have it too awful hot or they'll burn before they brown. So probably cook them at a medium heat, just to keep a close eye on that, because they can burn fairly quickly. But your heat should be bubbling a little bit, because if it's too low, then you'll saturate them before they cook. Now, as simple as this is, these are very tasty, and they complement almost any dish. Alright, so we have our 3 dishes made, and we'll go ahead and plate that up in individual serving. So stay with me for the finishing touches and a few serving tips. So let's go ahead and put this onto a plate, and we'll get a signature picture. Okay, so I hope you'll go ahead and try this tasty combination. Do you want some? Thanks so much for watching today's episode, and until next time, happy eating.